I still remember the exact moment my world seemed to collapse. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind where the air outside feels heavy, as if it already knows something is about to go wrong. I was sitting in a cramped little office, staring at an email I had read 10 times, hoping the words would rearrange themselves. The email began with, "We regret to inform you." Those 4 words cut deeper than I could have imagined. It wasn't just rejection of a project I poured my soul into. It felt like rejection of me. The screen blurred as my eyes filled with tears, but I didn't cry. Instead, I sat frozen, numb as though the failure had paralyzed me. In that silence, my mind screamed, "Was I ever good enough? Did I waste all this time?" The aftermath was brutal. I avoided friends' calls. I couldn't face their questions. I dodged family gatherings because I didn't want to see the disappointment in their eyes. Social media became unbearable. I couldn't scroll without feeling like a fraud. Everywhere I turned, it felt like the universe was whispering, "You failed." And honestly, I believed it. Days turned into weeks, and I carried the weight of that failure like a heavy chain. At first, I kept asking myself the same cruel questions. Why me? Why did this happen? But one quiet evening, as I sat staring at the same rejection email again, a different thought appeared. Instead of "Why me?" I whispered, "What can I learn from this?" That single question didn't erase the pain, but it cracked open a door I hadn't seen before. I started writing down every mistake I made, not as proof of weakness, but as clues for improvement. For the first time, I analyzed my failure without blaming myself. Each setback became a data point, not a death sentence. Slowly, I began to reframe the rejection, not as the end of my journey, but as a necessary detour. I realized failure wasn't proof that I was unworthy. It was proof that I was trying. And in that realization, a quiet strength was born. With lessons in hand, I knew I couldn't just sit in my failure. I had to rebuild. The first steps were small, almost invisible to anyone but me. I tried again, cautiously, applying the lessons from my mistakes. But progress was not smooth. It was trial and error, failure after failure, each one slightly less painful than before. Some nights I questioned if I was foolish to keep going. Yet every time doubt whispered, I reminded myself I've already survived my lowest point. Slowly, the process forged something unexpected inside me: resilience. I began to see problems differently, not as walls, but as puzzles waiting to be solved. With each small victory, confidence returned, not loud, not boastful, but steady and quiet. I built habits I never had before: discipline, patience, and the ability to endure discomfort. What once felt like punishment had become training. Brick by brick, mistake by mistake, I was laying the foundation for something stronger than I ever imagined. Months of quiet rebuilding passed, and then, almost without warning, something shifted. The project I once failed at had opened my eyes to a new, unexpected direction. I pursued opportunities I never would have considered before that crushing rejection. Slowly, small wins began to appear.
First, a single opportunity, then another. Each step forward felt fragile, but they built upon one another. And then, one day, I realized I was standing in the middle of the very success I once thought impossible. The failure that once felt like my ending had actually prepared me for this moment. It had taught me resilience, clarity, and the courage to stand tall even when the ground shook. Surprisingly, the detour brought me benefits I never could have planned. I met mentors I never would have crossed paths with, and I gained skills that failure had forced me to learn. Most importantly, I discovered a strength in myself that only failure could have revealed. The very path I once cursed had become the road to my greatest triumph.
Looking back, I see now that failure was never my enemy. It was my teacher. It stripped away illusions and forced me to confront my weaknesses with honesty. It taught me that setbacks are not proof of unworthiness, but proof that we are trying. The blueprint for bouncing back isn't magic. It's simple, but not easy. First, allow yourself to feel the pain, but don't let it define you. Second, ask the question, what can I learn from this? Third, take small steps forward, even when no one notices. Fourth, embrace discipline and resilience, your strongest allies when progress feels slow. And finally, remember that failure is not the end. It is a bridge to something greater. The truth is, success tastes sweeter only because of the bitterness of failure. So the next time you stumble, don't curse the ground. Thank it for teaching you how to rise. Because your story, like mine, is not defined by failure, but by the courage to rise again. So if there's one truth my story proves, it's this. Failure isn't a wall, it's a doorway. Sometimes the road to success begins at the very point where we think our story has ended. But here's the question I leave you with. What's one failure in your life that later became a hidden blessing? Share it in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else who is struggling right now. If this video gave you hope, do me a favor. Like this video, share it with a friend who needs encouragement, and subscribe so you never miss another story. Remember, failure doesn't define us. The courage to rise again does.